It was the first sitting of the first meeting of the 8th Parliament, and the country was in search of a speaker for the House. But for many, its highly respected representatives were at their dishonorable selves. Instances of electoral malpractices, ranging from the kicking of ballot boxes to the snatching of ballot papers, were recorded.
Someone has taken the ballot papers. Someone has taken the uncounted ballot papers. Is that Carlos Ahinkra?
The height of the embarrassment for many was when some armed military officers stormed the chamber to allegedly restore order. But amidst all these was the supposed birth of a new dawn for some. The minority had shown resolve and commitment to the cause of electing an opposition-sponsored Speaker of Parliament for the first time. Many could not hold their admiration for the strategy of the Haruna Idrisu-led caucus. They arrived in a uniform manner, took seats at the majority side, and maintained their composure until Agyeman was elected Speaker of Parliament.
I have the honor to declare Honorable Alban Kingsford Sumana Bagbin as Speaker-elect.
The majority in Parliament, whose leadership was new, have outlined some reasons that accounted for the loss.
It's not like one person won. You know, we put out a candidate and people had to express their views on that candidate. And sometimes you can do all the whipping, you know. If a particular candidate is not appealing as he should, you know, it will come to naught.
The election of Speaker Agyeman boosted the confidence of many observers in the current structure of Parliament. Many believed the near-hung Parliament will act as a check on the executives as it ought to.
Our expectation was that at every stage in all deliberations before the House, we were going to see some kind of compromise, and we're also going to see, you know, national interest driving whatever decisions that Parliament makes.
This view was strengthened as many witnessed what they termed the best ever parliamentary vetting. The minority side did not miss the opportunity to demand accountability from duty bearers. But these praises dwindled after a vote for the passing of some ministerial nominees that the minority described as questionable. 3 of the nominees, Kujopon Nkrumah, Hawa Kumsen, Owusu Efriye Akoto, had been penned down for rejection, but it so happened that the magic witnessed during the election of the Speaker could not be relieved. But the majority say they had learned some lessons from the election of the Speaker and had found a better strategy to get the appointees approved.
It was difficult. Some of the ministers, I don't want to put out identities, but they had, you know, it was difficult selling them, so to speak. And the people were not willing to buy into our call. But we kept knocking at the doors. We identified and had to do target, lobbying, and eventually it paid off. I'm very proud, particularly about the finance minister, who I'm extremely proud, and it's an experience that day, if you looked at me, I was overly excited because in the morning, the news and the feedback and the intelligence was all gloomy. And so we kept on pressing. We kept on talking to the people, our colleagues, especially on the other side. We kept talking to them, and eventually they agreed and acquiesced to some of the demands that we put out.
The fourth of the minority did not hold. All the appointees, including Hawa Kumsen, who a number of NDC faithful wanted rejected at all costs, were approved. This was a low moment for supporters of the current structure of the House.
No, I will not rule it out because especially when I saw Honorable Kudeta Blackwell's letter, you remember at the beginning of the 7th Parliament, he and Honorable Muntaka were at the center of this whole discussion about the bribery scandal involving Honorable Ajaku, the energy minister designate at the time. Nobody's coming out to talk about money, to talk about underhand dealings and so on. But, this smells like there's something that is not going right.
The party's base was frustrated and dissatisfied, and Communications Director of the NDC, Sami Gyamfi, took to social media to criticize the party leadership in Parliament, suggesting that his reaction summed up the mood of the party's base. Interestingly, these sentiments appeared to have been endorsed by the executives of the National Democratic Congress.
Well, we're all very worried about the decision of our side to pass appointees like Interior Minister, Health Minister, Defense Minister, and Hawa Kumsen. We're all very furious about it.
What could have accounted for this? How could a side that won in the election of a Speaker of the House with relatively smaller numbers not prevent the approval of ministerial nominees? General Secretary of the NDC, Johnson Asiedu Nketia, has been given some reasons.
I think that it's a collective failure. Collective failure in the sense that the one who is casting the vote, he decides whether he will cast the vote according to what the party was demanding.
Do you not have a whip system as a party?
We have a whip system.
So that failed you?
By and large, yes. The MPs were approaching the vote. I believe that they underestimated the anger of the people against those ministers.
In the lead-up to the 2020 general election, Ken Ofori-Atta was accused of engaging in some alleged corrupt activities, with the Ajapa deal being the major talking point. But after his vetting, he was approved by a consensus with no opposition from the minority in Parliament. But this has agitated some minority MPs. Deputy Ranking Member of the Finance Committee, Isaac Adongo, for instance, has publicly expressed his opposition to the decision.
If there's anybody who will put his life on the line to get Ken Ofori-Atta not to be a Minister for Finance, you can wake me up any day. But it's a collective decision. I disagree with the decision, but I respect the view of the majority.
The parties are however looking at reconstituting the minority leadership in Parliament before the second meeting as part of steps to address the challenges faced by the minority side.
We reconstitute the leadership of Parliament, even if it means to reconfirm them. We haven't done that yet because of the court case. And so we started, but we got to a point where we felt that let us finish with the court case and we'll come back to it. So it is something that we are going to...
We may see a change or a retention very soon.
Yes.
A former NDC MP for Kumbungu, Ras Mubarak, wants Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu changed.
As far as I am concerned, it's a vote of no confidence in the leadership. And there are people who are unhappy, but who may not express their unhappiness publicly.
If we are looking for new leaders, what names should we look at among the minority caucus?
I wouldn't take that bait and that invitation to go into that arena, but I am completely of the view that the continued state of the minority leader as leader of the NDC Parliament has become untenable, given the collapse of trust from his own benches in his leadership.
But the majority is concerned about happenings within the minority caucus.
For us to be strong, we need a strong opposition. That is a fact one cannot gloss over. So it's not like our prayer is that they go down. No, that is not our prayer. I have very good friends in the minority. Our hearts and prayers are with them. We reach out to some of them. We know individuals in that caucus who pose in significantly dissenting views, and we are talking to them for them to have a way of dousing the tension and moving forward. So I think and it can happen to any of the caucuses.
The question on the minds of many people is whether the 8th Parliament lived up to expectations so far.
And then also you hear all the foot soldiers and the commentary from Honorable Asiedu Nketia just yesterday, all this saying that it's not all well within the ranks of the minority. And it means that if we are not careful, we are going to go back to business as usual.
It is not all doom and gloom though. The majority says they have had the attention of the executives as a result of the close numbers in Parliament.
I think you easily catch the attention of the executive. Okay. First one, yes. That is amazing how the executive would easily oblige, and respond, for want of a better word, respond, unlike before. And I think that is very good.
The first meeting of the House also witnessed the approval of the budget estimates and economic policy of government despite stern opposition from the minority in Parliament. It was approved by the difference of just one vote, as the majority edged the minority 137 to 136.